Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 17th of November, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index, and we see that we're still below the cloud on the 60-minute chart, so short term still bearish. Medium term, we have been hitting some support on the daily cloud on the lagging line, but we are just starting to see signs of that wandering through. All the dollar has to do is go sideways, and we will start coming out into positive territory. But for the moment, we're still bearish. We've got a new downside target on the 60-minute chart, but that would only be activated with lows below what we saw on Wednesday. If we take a look at the euro, euro is pausing for breath, having found support on the cloud. On the medium-term chart and on the 60-minute chart, so we are looking a bit more bullish. We do have an upside target here to 124, but we need a new high to activate that. So much the same picture as the dollar in reverse. Looking at the Japanese yen, we're seeing dollar bearish here as well. We still do have three upside targets here, but we're coming back in the short term towards this 112 level on the yen. Looking at sterling, sterling looking much stronger over the last couple of days against the dollar, 132.50. So we are just seeing a change there, and we've got targets to 134. So we are seeing sterling strengthen in the short term. Still long term bearish. We've got to really get through this 135 level quite convincingly for a few weeks before we could say that sterling was on a new upward path. Looking against the euro, sterling also looking more positive here this morning as well, so back above the 60-minute cloud. And on the sterling Swiss, we see that sterling looking strong here, and on the Aussie dollar really running quite high there as well. So Aussie dollar weakness there showing through against sterling strength. The S&P 500 index held steady overnight. We had an update for the day. We see here on the weekly cloud we still very bullish on all three time frames. And on the Nasdaq 100, the Nasdaq index made a new all-time high overnight. The Nasdaq 100 not quite making it to a new all-time high, but looking bullish on all three time frames. We've got an upside target here of 66.14, which is 4% upside. And on the medium-term chart, we've still got some very convincing upside targets to 4% as well. So it does look like the Nasdaq is going to break this 6600 level. On the Nasdaq 100, so that's taking us another 4% higher. Looking at the Dow, a little bit of a recovery yesterday, but still a little bit bearish on the short-term chart. So just like key there, and we are seeing we've got upside targets here on the Dow, but the Dow not looking as strong as the Nasdaq and the S&P. And the Russell 2000 jumped overnight, but it hasn't really got back into bullish territory here either on the short-term chart. Medium and long-term still looks great. The S&P future down very, very slightly this morning, and the Nasdaq E-mini up slightly. So a bit hard to call which way the US will open today. FTSE down slightly this morning, still looking very bearish on the short-term chart. We're pulled all the way back to support on the point and figure here, and we are just coming into bearish territory on the medium-term chart, but the long-term picture is still bullish. And the FTSE 250, much the same in that we're bearish short-term, medium and long-term we're holding on. The DAX is also bearish in the short term on that stronger euro, but the medium and long-term chart's still looking good. The Nikkei just holding on to its bullish position on the short-term chart with the lagging line on the 60-minute chart. So Japan's still looking pretty strong. Hang Seng is bullish above all three time frames, and Shanghai just testing the short term there, but still looking pretty good. And the Sensex recovering quite strongly overnight, so the Indian market looking better. Australian market also just finding support very much on the cloud here, having had an amazing run in the last several weeks. Just a pullback, but looks like we're going to continue there. Brent crude is still sitting below the cloud on the short-term chart, so we're still bearish. A shortage of downside targets on the short-term chart, so bearish in the short term, but medium long term, breaking the normal seasonal trend of falling in the second half of the year. And WTI, much the same picture, of course, bearish in the short term, but long-term and medium-term charts looking better. A shortage of upside targets just makes it a bit harder to call where WTI is going in the longer term. US NatGas back in the low $3 area, just really struggling to hold that bull trend, and we're in bearish short term, and we've got targets back below $3, 295 to $2.96. Copper looking still pretty good in the medium and long term. At short term, we've just been a bit in the doldrums. Heating oil, we see again bearish in the short term. Very similar picture to oil, of course. Just running through the softs, we see coffee is looking bullish in the short term, bearish medium and long term. We're seeing cocoa much the same. Cotton is looking bullish in the short term, but medium and long term less good. Sugar looking pretty good on the medium and long term short term charts, but the long term picture has still got a lot of work to do. Wheat bearish in the short and medium term, and the long term not really looking good. And soybeans much the same, and corn similar to wheat as we might expect, bearish on all three time frames. So soft commodities still not looking great. Gold looking stronger this morning, back above the cloud, but we really are in this tight range on gold, but in the 1270s, 1280s. And if we look at silver, we see we're bullish here as well, but again, really just struggling to run convincingly. US Treasury yields were 2.36% on the 10-year, just sitting in those mid 230s, having been in the low 230s and the low 240s in the last week. We're just sitting in the middle of that range at the moment. Apple recovering quite strongly, still looking bullish on all three time frames. Google is just holding on all three time frames as well. Amazon, having jumped a few weeks ago, holding on to those gains, really looking very strong. Facebook nudging that 180 level again, looking strong again. And if we look at Microsoft, also looking pretty strong, although just starting to wander away a little bit there. That's it for today. Have a great weekend. Until next week, happy charting. See you then.